¿Hablo yo?
Sí.
Vale. Hola, buenas noches a todos. Gracias por venir. Yo soy Beatriz, voy a hacer una pequeña introducción. Estamos aquí para celebrar el libro Trajectòries, variacions sobre el gest de Edouard Cabay, junto con Edouard Cabay. Disculpadme, pero voy a leer. Esta velada va a discurrir sobre dos elementos, el gesto y el trazo, visto desde diferentes puntos de vista, cómo confluyen y cómo nos pueden obsesionar. Edouard Cabay es un artista cuyo trabajo de investigación se sitúa en los márgenes donde confluyen arte y arquitectura, con el uso de la robótica para crear dibujos donde máquina y mano confluyen en nuevos procesos de creación a partir de datos, códigos, sensores, programación, aleatoriedad, colectividad y materia, entre otros. Edouard Cabay estudió Bellas Artes en la Universidad de Barcelona, en la especialidad de escultura. Es profesor en la Escuela de Massana, en la especialidad de diseño, cuya escuela ha dirigido durante 7 años. Cursó, y esto es importante, el máster de Filosofía y Pensamiento en la Pompeu Fabra. Y además es un loco de los libros y del Qigong. Es creador de libros de artista, donde su mirada de escultor de los inicios de su educación aterriza en cada libro que crea como un volumen en el espacio. Trazo como dibujo o como huella, como permanencia, gesto como movimiento y por lo tanto en el tiempo y efímero. Aquí confluyen el dibujo como huella de un gesto. El común denominador de este proceso de confluencia es la repetición. Hacemos gestos repetitivos en el ámbito de la creación artesana, hoy en día, con el peso en nuestras vidas de la informática, la virtualidad y todo lo digital. Lo artesano tiene especial relevancia hoy en día y eso es lo que estudian en la escuela Massana. Edouard llegó a la escuela, invitado por Xavier, para exponer unas obras artísticas que habían formado parte de una exposición previa en la sala del Centre d'Art Santa Mónica, donde expuso unas obras performáticas creadas con robótica. Xavier le invitó porque quería llevar esas obras a la Massana. Y entonces, durante la visita, digamos, de cortesía, en la cual Xavier le enseñaba la escuela a Edouard, algo que iba a ser previo a la reunión sobre la exposición en sí, Edouard se fijó en los gestos repetitivos de los alumnos que trabajan con sus manos. Y eso le llamó la atención y le provocó una intuición. Y decidió que en vez de exponer sus obras, sería más interesante proponer hacer una residencia artística donde pudiese profundizar en esa intuición, donde observó y sintió una confluencia entre esos gestos repetitivos de las manos de los estudiantes y la repetición de los gestos de la máquina que él conoce también y con la que lleva investigando desde hace años. Ahí se inicia un proceso. Esto es una parte del proceso, es como lo último de este proceso, pero voy a explicar un poquito de este proceso. Él se dedica a grabar, filmar los gestos de varios alumnos, realizando cada uno tareas diferentes, repetitivas, artesanales y manuales. Un gesto. Esas filmaciones ya son en sí un puente entre lo digital y lo artesano, manual, porque coloca pegatinas de colores en las manos de los estudiantes y esos colores le permiten trasladar digitalmente los movimientos. Una coreografía de cuerpo, brazos y manos con objetos, con su ritmo, tiempo y gestualidad específica, un baile de gestos y trazos de estos gestos, que se convierten en coreografía al ser observado como tal. Al igual que la obra de arte se convierte en obra de arte al ser observada como tal, cosa que demostró Duchamp, lo que cambió la percepción y definición del arte en su momento y del que hoy somos herederos. Él, al observar estos gestos se convierten en coreografía. De ahí Edouard añade una capa más, un paso más en el proceso creativo, que es la creación, la producción de un dibujo sobre cada uno de estos gestos. realiza alzados y plantas, que aquí hay muchas, de cada vista, recogida por las cámaras, porque Edouard, no lo he dicho, tiene una formación de arquitecto y le obsesiona y fascina la línea y el dibujo. Se dedica a medir estos gestos humanos de forma muy precisa y en el espacio que ocupan. Utiliza, pues, métodos de representación arquitectónica, pero para un uso totalmente diferente, un uso artístico, donde no se representa una materialidad que va a ser construida o que ya está construida y que por lo tanto es física o va a serlo, sino que representa movimientos con un rigor y precisión que le permite trasladar puntos en el espacio y tiempo a planos bidimensionales. Edouard sitúa el foco no en el resultado productivo de esos gestos, sino en el proceso del movimiento repetido. Son gestos cargados de sabiduría y tradición. Crea 10 dibujos que conformaron la exposición Trajectòries, variacions, sobre el gest en el año 2022 en la Escuela Massana. 10 dibujos donde cada dibujo va de un gesto de un estudiante, 10 estudiantes en total. Estos estudiantes vienen de disciplinas y técnicas de trabajos diferentes, que trabajan o con cerámica, o con textil, con joyería, con vidrio, serigrafía, metal, piedra, madera. Y así cada gesto repetido, infinitamente igual, pero diferente a la vez, preciso y aleatorio, humano, recogido como serie de datos y reconfigurado con un algoritmo creado por Edouard para crear unas obras artísticas donde se une técnica y poesía. Resultan en la unión de la técnica y la poesía. Aquí dejaré que sea él que lo explique mejor y después pasaremos a Xavi.
Muy bien, gracias, Bea. Veo que I see that we have some students, both from Ajax and from La Salle, and I think that a few of you are not completely fluent in Spanish yet. In process, I know. So Bea, maybe I will do a little bit of translation. I don't think I will translate everything you've said because I won't be able to remember it, and then I will follow to the explanation about the book. No, so. This is a book that is the outcome of a process, first of all, of Xavi inviting me to do an exhibition in the school that he used to direct, which is called La Massana. La Massana, for you that don't know, it's the school that is behind the Boqueria. It's the school of arts, of applied arts and crafts in Barcelona. And so 3 or 4 years ago, Xavi asked me, because after having seen an exhibition of automatic drawing that had happened in another art center, asked me to exhibit some of the work. And while we were having the meeting to discuss, what this exhibition could look like, we went through a visit, and we went through a visit in the school actually. And I knew the school from the outside and from friends that had studied there, but for the first time I really went with him through all the schools, and opening door after door, we went through a workshop, another workshop, and all of it was workshops: woodworking, metalworking, jewelry, ceramics, textile, graphic arts. And so for a couple of hours working through the school, we saw all of these people active with material, with their hands, with gestures. And so after visiting the school, then somehow a little bit in the conversation and a bit from also what I felt like doing, I proposed not to do an exhibition of existing work, but actually rather to do kind of more of a residency format, to work with the students of La Massana with all of these different crafts, and actually we selected 10, and to ask the student to get out of the classroom to come and do their work in a kind of little laboratory that we set up in the cultural space of the school. And there what I did is to basically place color gommettes, little color stickers on their hands, which is a kind of very low-tech version of a sensor, but actually the original one. This is what scientists would have used 120 years ago, for example, and to use actually filmographic mean in a very architectural way, from above, from the side, to record, to transform basically a hand gesture into a curve, no? Using image recognition. So I was able to film the students for several gestures, several iterations, let's say, of the gestures, and with that information, I was able to reconstruct a three-dimensional curve that afterwards I then used in order to create content for the book. So this book I'm translating in a very different order than what you said, and probably also very different content, so it's not the translation. So Xavi Catman, as I said, he has directed the school for 7 years. He's an editorial designer. He's also a teacher of in the school, actually, in different design disciplines. But as an editorial designer, I have seen many of his books, actually, and all of them are special books in the sense that they are still books, but they really question the limit of what a book can be, no? And so after when the exhibition was finished, this is 4 years ago, we took all the work down, and then a couple of months later, Xavi called me and said, "I would like to do a book from the work that you showed. Do you agree?" And me, of course, I agree. But then we started. Actually, you started, and I was very kind of peripheral in that process, but very, very happy to follow a kind of very different process of work that I imagine in the making of a book, which is a process that is very, very strongly related to craft, again, very strongly related to material. And in a moment, we'll open the book and we look at it, because it's a book that has architecture, it has geometry, it has materiality, it has several people that are involved within its making. It has printing as a craft also. So these kind of disciplines that I worked with in order to create this content, I think you afterwards use them in order to take that content into this new format. So for me, it was very, 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 very nice to I don't think I worked on this book, but to witness the making of the book. We don't have Cinta here, who is the printer, actually, that is also a person with an incredible knowledge of craft. But yes, and I think we can mention, no, even before the book came out, it received an award, which is the award from the Association of Binders, actually, of Catalonia, no? Like, just to say already, from a technical perspective, that book is already quite special. And now I'm a bit lost between what I'm saying in English and what I should say in Spanish.
Do you want to talk about drawings, maybe?
Yes, I can talk about that. And maybe, ¿quieres tú abrir el libro? ¿Lo hago yo? Sí? Okay, so I can talk a bit about the process of drawing. So,
have they seen the drawings, for example?
No, exactly. No? I don't think so. No, did I show something? Els dibuixos, no?
Sí, sense obrir.
Com? Sense obrir?
Sí.
Només els dibuixos.
Només els dibuixos.
Okay.
Sí?
Només per aquí.
No el desplegable.
Ok, molt bé.
Sí.
Ja sé, solo explica.
Sí.
I tu faràs després?
Jo explico. Tu fes el que vulguis. Sí.
Okay, so after scanning three-dimensionally, but with very kind of homemade means, much less sophisticated that what you guys in Ayak are doing, I understood, or I observed the fact that in a movement of craft is as Beatriz said it in Spanish, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but it's a gesture that integrates a certain memory and variations. No, so when an act of craft is performed, maybe we are not craftsmen, but some of us are, or some of you are. There is a certain memory in the gesture. No, there is knowledge in a gesture, and so I was interested in the fact that a movement of craft is partially is very strongly repetitive, but includes also a certain freedom. No, it's very precise in certain moments, and it's a little bit less precise in others. And then it's this kind of endless repetition. So what these drawings are, they are drawings that I have invented, no? As Beatrice said, with the use of code. So they are not exact, accurate representation of what the students were doing, but they use what I identify as one curve of the gesture of this craftsman, and then they are declined 100,000 times. So this is 100,000 gestures. It's a speculation. They didn't really happen. This is my idea of how to represent these crafts. And as you can see in some of them, there are certain moments of precision, which is the place where the hand needs to be precise, and other moments where, let's say, the quality of the line becomes much more diffuse and much more dispersed. No? So in this idea to work with repetition and variation, there is clearly some game of darkness and of lightness, and also a lot of gradients in between. Bueno, lo digo también en español, ¿no? Entonces, son 10 gestos de distintas artesanías. Esto, por ejemplo, es una estudiante que corta el metal. Y aquí, a ver, este me gusta. Este es el gesto de la serigrafía. Entonces, explicaba que el gesto del artesano es un gesto que contiene conocimiento, que contiene una cierta libertad, pero que también contiene una cierta precisión en algunos momentos. Entonces, estos 10 dibujos son dibujos que representan o que construyen más bien 100.000 gestos de este artesano. No son gestos que han existido, son gestos que he inventado a raíz de una línea, que al principio sí que es muy precisa, pero donde he entendido en qué momento tiene sus pequeños momentos de precisión y momentos más de libertad, ¿no? Entonces, por esto, en estos dibujos hay momentos de mucha concentración del trazo, que define una región negra, y luego otros en cual se ve básicamente el potencial o la probabilidad de que la mano esté aquí, ¿no? Aquí la mano casi nunca está, aquí siempre está. Entonces, también estos dibujos de alguna forma son mapas. Y sí, esto un poco la explicación en los dos idiomas sobre los dibujos.
Vale. Y entonces, después de la creación de los dibujos, vino la creación del libro. After the drawings became the making and the thinking of the book. And then Xavi will explain how.
Explico.
Sí.
Pero en castellà tu vas traduint?
El libro solo decir, el libro también va sobre el gesto.
Sí.
Gesto en inglés, movement? No.
Gesture.
Gesture.
The book is also about the gesture.
Sí, millor. Voy a hablar en castellano y él va traduciendo, así iremos un poco más rápido, creo. ¿Sí? Vale. Voy a explicar un poco la idea que hay detrás de la edición, porque para mí cada libro es un objeto por sí mismo, y siempre digo que no tendríamos que diseñar igual un libro que habla del agua o un libro que habla del hierro. ¿Sí? Para mí son libros distintos.
So in this work of understanding this work of edition as a book, Xavi is I think always questioning what a book is, and he says that a book that talks about water should not be the same book, the same format as a book that talks about iron, for example.
Un poco la genealogía del libro es, yo invito a Edouard, como él ha explicado bien, y él propone todo un trabajo sobre ciertos gestos y actitudes que se dan en una escuela de arte y diseño. Y yo cuando veo la exposición, porque hay una exposición que le hicimos en pandemia, porque íbamos con las máscaras, a mí me fascinaban los dibujos. ¿Sí? Hubo como una fascinación en el formato y en la potencia del gesto y del dibujo, por sí mismos, ¿no?
I translate a bit. So Xavi asked me to come and do this work, no, that I have explained before, all the work that I contributed in order to make this exhibition. But Xavi was not, immersed in that process. Xavi sees the exhibition, and when he sees the exhibition, he sees the drawings, and he is touched by the drawings, and the drawing for him is the starting point of the project of the book.
Y este encuentro, ¿no? Para mí este encuentro con la potencia del dibujo es lo que me interesaba trasladar a la edición. ¿Sí? Por esto es una edición de formato grande, ¿sí? Formato grande, y contempla dos narrativas, ¿sí? La de poder ver los dibujos casi a un tamaño grande, de manera que el espectador, ¿no? Se encuentre con la fuerza del trazo y del dibujo, y un poco separado del proceso de elaboración de cada uno de los dibujos.
So Xavi gets confronted, let's say, to what he says, the power of the drawings, no, or the strength of the drawing. And so when he thinks of the book, he thinks of a large format. These drawings, actually we didn't say, but they are A0, so they are 4 times as big as that. But Xavi decides to think of a book in which the size of the drawing is as big as possible to give them, or to have them to keep their strength or their power. So on one hand, he makes a book that is about these 10 drawings as they are, and on the other hand, and tries to put the process of making of these drawings aside.
Y por lo tanto hay dos narrativas, ¿no? Una primera narrativa que es la propia del dibujo, donde yo creo que el trabajo de Edouard tiene valor estético y formal por sí mismo, una potencia formal por sí misma, y después hay la parte del proceso, y el proceso está aquí dentro. ¿Sí? Cada dibujo podemos descubrir su proceso en la parte interior del libro, ¿no? ¿Sí? Por tanto, el proceso para mí es algo que está dentro del dibujo, pero no se muestra antes que el dibujo. Se muestra si tú quieres conocerlo, ¿no? Y esta era un poco la filosofía del libro, ¿no? A veces se enseñan mucho los procesos para llegar al resultado. A mí lo que le propuse a él y a él le gustó fue hacerlo un poco al revés. Primero hacemos el dibujo y después vemos el proceso, cómo se ha ido realizando de alguna manera, ¿no? Por lo tanto, es un libro que no se puede leer en el metro, ¿sí? Pero de alguna manera tiene este elemento un poco performativo del propio dibujo. Y por esto Beatriz decía que el libro también acaba siendo un gesto, ¿no? Todo el rato en que vas abriendo, desplegando y cerrando y trabajando de esta manera, ¿no?
¿Quieres hablar de la enmarcación?
Ahora voy, pero le dejo traducir. Sí, genial. El gran asunto. Sí.
Gran asunto.
So Xavi says that the process precedes the process precedes the outcome, no? So the drawing is the outcome, and Xavi put an importance to this book being able to be a book about these 10 drawings, in which you don't necessarily understand the process before seeing the drawing, no? So there's a way to flip and to see these drawings for their aesthetical, their formal value. But then afterwards, as he did this very nice gesture before, the content or all of the inputs, all of the process is kind of trapped, is contained within. So of course on every drawing you always have the possibility to open it and to go actually to scrutinize, to understand, to do to read the codes, to see the captures of the video, and then this abstraction from the video into these trajectory drawings. No? For him it was important that this book can be these two things at the same time, and that probably the reader can have the freedom to go one way or another. And so this is a book that, as you said, is difficult to read in the metro. I mean, we can try, but it's not so easy. But it is a book that definitely engages with the body and engages with, as Beatrice was explaining before, with the gesture. No? So it's a book that you move with. It's not a book that is laying there, it's a book that engages with the body.
Sí. Después había una pequeña dificultad, ¿no? Que es lo que apuntaba Beatriz ahora. Es muy técnica, pero es relevante como idea. Cuando tienes para mí, cuando hay un dibujo como este, para mí era inconcebible, era imposible poner una grapa o coser con un hilo. Porque yo entendía que si yo ponía una grapa, ¿no? Para encuadernar o ponía un hilo, estaba rompiendo todo su trabajo de líneas. Entonces la gran dificultad de este libro es que no está grapado, no está cosido. ¿Sí?
So Xavi didn't want to put either thread or a staple in the middle of the drawing, no? Because that would compete or distract or destroy even all of this work of the fine line. So the question, and that is something that I think was one of the early first concerns, is how to get this book to unfold without having a binding that interferes actually with these big double pages.
Bueno, entonces encontramos un encuadernador, uno en Barcelona, que dijo que iba a encolar. Y en realidad, ¿no? Todo esto es una serie de páginas, de pliegues también, que están encolados entre ellos. ¿Sí? Que es muy dificultoso justamente de poder hacer que te quede perfectamente alineado, ¿no? A este tamaño, de alguna manera.
Si quieres, lo intento yo para darte un respiro. So the book, they found one company that was able to do it in all Barcelona. It's not stapled, it's not sewn, it's glued. So every full page, like that's an A2, so every A1 is folded together, and then it's called pliego. I don't know that name in English. It's like every book is made of pliegos, and then they are glued together. And it's a very precise. It's very difficult. That's why it won a prize of binding. The prize is binding. The first prize. The first prize.
No, pero era también coherente porque era muy artesanal en el fondo.
Yes, and it's very nice because it's again very craft. This technique of binding with glue without sewing.
Y yo tengo ¿puedo decir una anécdota?
Sí.
Sí. Entonces,
que no sea porno.
Voy a intentar. Entonces, después de unos meses que estamos hablando del libro y que Xavi va haciendo ensayos y me va pidiendo los archivos, y después de unos meses que yo no veo el proceso, me llama y me dice, tengo la maqueta del libro. Entonces yo, con mucho ánimo, tenía muchas ganas de ver cómo sería el libro, ¿no? Y entonces Xavi llega y dice, tengo la maqueta. Y pone la maqueta, era una versión, no, era el tamaño real.
Pero blanca.
Y entonces empezó a mirar el libro y era todo blanco.
Vale.
Y entonces, pero Xavi, ¿no íbamos a ver el libro? Sí, esto es el libro. Y entonces era muy guapo este momento, porque para mí porque la palabra maqueta es una palabra con la cual también trabajamos mucho en la arquitectura, ¿no? Sí. Y una maqueta implica un cierto nivel de abstracción, ¿no? Y entonces yo no me había imaginado este nivel de abstracción, pero en realidad eso era la parte más complicada del libro, ¿no? O complejo, o la parte más no era de ir a imprimir la impresión después también ha sido un tema que al final es también mucho más complejo que lo que una persona que no está en esta industria puede entender. pero la magia de este libro era este juego de pliegue.
De pliegues.
Y entonces y no sé si lo hemos guardado, ¿lo tienes tú en tu casa?
Yo tengo, sí.
Esta maqueta de páginas, de todo páginas blancas, ¿no? Lo tengo. ¿Cómo que lo tienes? Lo tengo.
Claro, porque esto, para mí, solucionaba técnicamente estos problemas que yo tenía en la cabeza y le daba ya el volumen real del libro, porque en realidad, y esto a los arquitectos les gusta mucho, Edouard hacía sus obras, tenían formato DIN, ¿sí? Y me acuerdo que no es DIN tal, ¿no? Es DIN. Entonces, es un libro que en realidad, ¿no? Pasamos, esto es un DIN A1, tenemos el DIN A2, plegado tenemos el DIN A3, tenemos un cuadernito en DIN A4 y las fotos que hay son DIN A5, ¿no? O sea, tenemos toda la escala del DIN que tenemos, ¿no? De alguna manera, buscando un poco esta coherencia. Y también propusimos un texto, ¿no? Que acompañe el...
Quizás hacemos un poco de traducción. ¿Lo quieres hacer tú? ¿Hago yo?
Lo del DIN.
Sí,
Yo
lo
creo
del
que
DIN.
Sí.
Sí.
Did you understand about the dean? Like he said because Edouard was trained as an architect, all his drawings in the exhibition was dean. So he was surprised that so this is dean A0, A1, A2. He was talking about dean, you know, because it's our language, and therefore he used the dean. You have A1, A2, A3, the booklet A4, and the images of the exhibition that are printed are A5.
I'm not so freaky as him. In terms of
¿Qué més?
Chantal,
¿Chantal?
si voleu. Bueno, no
Sí.
sé.
Sí.
Entonces hay una escritora que fue profesora de estética en la Universidad de Málaga, que es Chantal Maliar, y
Que es belga.
que es belga. Aquí había otra coincidencia.
¿Ah, sí?
Sí. Creo que era belga y decíamos, pues vamos a juntar dos almas belgas. Y tiene un texto que a mí me ha obsesionado mucho durante mucho tiempo, que está en este libro, que es un libro que ella conoce mucho la estética de la India, ha vivido mucho tiempo en la India, y tiene este libro que es, bueno, que son sus poemas, sus diarios, ¿no? Sus trabajos sobre la India. Y hay un texto que habla del gesto y de la repetición del gesto, ¿no? Quizás no hace falta leerlo, pero que de alguna manera viene a decir que en realidad tú conoces a alguien, realmente puedes decir que tú conoces a alguien cuando eres capaz de prever cuál será su gesto. Un gesto es un cuerpo que se pliega de alguna manera. Entonces, cuando yo de alguien puedo adivinar cuál será su gesto, es que realmente lo conozco. Porque es algo que tiene que ver con la corporeidad del individuo, ¿no?
So, ¿quieres? Sí. So Xavi at some point related the work of this book to a philosopher. Actually, she's Spanish. She lives in Spain, but she's originally from Belgium. So there was also that funny connection. Chantal Maillard, who has written actually many books, including this one. This is a book about India, where she lived, about aesthetical notions in India, and inside there is this very short text, which is the text on a text on this question of the movement, on movement and of people. And then what she says is that you don't really know someone well, you don't know someone really well until you know how that person will move, what kind of movement, understanding the movement of someone is understanding someone, no? So to understand a person from that perspective. So that book contains a short passage of this very powerful text, which Xavi decided to bring in the book.
Sí, entonces pedimos permiso a Chantal para hacer una traducción del texto. Traducimos en catalán, en inglés y en francés.
Ah, sí.
También, ¿no? Para considerar bien el trabajo, su escritura es una escritura filosófica muy poética, entonces la traducción la hizo un poeta, ¿sí? Porque también no puede hacerlo cualquier traductor, pensábamos que es un poeta quien tiene que hacer la traducción, ¿no? Y bueno, ella quedó muy encantada con el libro, una maravilla, pero es un texto precioso. Yo siempre recomiendo que la gente lea Chantal. El problema está, yo siempre que cojo este libro, vuelvo al libro, tengo marcado este texto. Entonces siempre empiezo por aquí, otra vez también, ¿no? Y me gusta tanto que lo leo y ya me quedo extasiado y ya no continúo con el libro, ¿no? Siempre es como una repetición. Chantal siempre dice que cuando leemos un texto que nos gusta, que nos alimenta, ella dice una cosa que es muy bonita también, dice: hacemos el mismo gesto que cuando bebemos un buen vino. Cuando bebemos un buen vino, lo saboreamos y hacemos así con la cabeza. Cuando uno lee un buen texto, en realidad lees, ¿no? Y cuando interiorizas el texto, haces el mismo gesto que cuando bebes un buen vino, ¿no? No sé si podemos más cosas o así, o...
Maybe I translate maybe this last part, no?
Yes. So Xavi knows Chantal Maillard personally, and he asked her if they could use this text about gestures in the book. They translated it originalmente en qué idioma?
Castellano.
Originalmente en castellano.
Bueno, yo lo leí aquí en castellano.
The original is in Spanish. They translated it in English, Catalan, and French. And the translator they chose was a poet because it's a poetic text. And es que no me acuerdo qué has dicho después.
Lo del vino.
Lo del vino.
¿Cómo que no te acuerdas del vino?
No, perdón, porque estaba pensando en otra cosa. O sea, en otra cosa que iba a decir ahora, pero que sí. Chantal says that when you read something really, really nice, you do a gesture that is a little bit like, which reminds her of when you drink a glass of very good wine or very good something, that you also do like this. And so this is what happens. Es que esto me ha acordado a Madame Bovary. Tiene un pasaje sobre un gesto parecido de la copa de vino. Madame Bovary, ella, el personaje, coge la copa de vino, hace así, cuando hace así todavía queda una gotita ahí. Entonces saca la lengua para tomársela. Y Flaubert esto lo describe como sus ganas de vivir, y bueno, tiene todo, muchas páginas sobre ese gesto, porque indica las ganas de vivir, de ir más allá, entonces va por la gotita, está haciendo que el momento se expanda y tal. Y cuando has leído estaba pensando en eso.
Y quiero dar dos cosas más sobre el libro que antes te he contado a ti, que para mí eran importantes. Dos cosas que para mí eran interesantes sobre el libro, sobre su trabajo, porque no me interesaba que Edouard estuviera en la Massana. Primero, para poner en debate el dibujo académico y el dibujo hecho a través de robots o de algoritmos, etc., ¿no? Para mí era un debate que en una escuela de arte se tenía que poner y visualizar, y pienso que era importante manifestarlo de esta manera, ¿no? Porque el límite se rompe realmente ahí, y en su trabajo se ve mucho este doble juego y este límite. Y después...
Quizá lo traduzco,
sí,
¿no? Y también podemos también... Xavi says that he was interested, as from the side of the school, he was interested to bring in the work that I did, because even though I use drawing, which is quite a traditional tool, I use it with a lot of different means, no? With code, with robots also sometimes. And so he was interested to kind of try to break also, or to maybe to release drawing from where it often stands in the academic context, not the one that is explored in IAC, for example, but to create that friction, no? And then you were going to continue, but maybe I can add on that, no? Because to me it was also a bit the origin of my thought when I visited the school. No? I remember seeing the student that was doing tapestry. No, so he was doing tapestry with the backpack of, I don't know how old is tapestry, but I know that it's at least 1,000 years old. With this bag of knowledge and of material that comes from such a long time, no, and they are students in art, so they are very contemporary, no? They are very contemporary, how they dress, how they are, how they act. And then I was thinking, okay, this student is doing here this really slow gesture that is a gesture that we have inherited from so far back. But then when he gets out of the classroom, he is projected in our daily world that is so different, no? And so to me it was interesting, I don't know if it felt like a contradiction, but it was like, okay, what's the connection? To me that connection was suddenly very thin, no? And I wanted to work on that connection. And so that was the reason why I decided to actually do a process that starts from something analogical and to look, because very often it's the opposite. Actually, but in this case, it's to take a movement and to look at it with different technological means to try to represent this gesture in a way that has actually never been, which is through this code. So for me, it was interesting to take this tradition, to put a kind of, I don't know, a computational layer on top of it, and then to see where this would take it. No, that was a little bit my reaction to visiting the school with all of its amazing crafts.
Y otra idea que antes apuntaba, que era referente a la artesanía y a la representación de la idea del artesano. El artesano tradicionalmente y aún ahora se representa siempre a través de la mano, ¿no? Siempre vemos a alguien con su mano haciendo una cerámica, alguien con su mano haciendo alguna cosa, ¿no? Siempre la mano es como el elemento simbólico de la artesanía, ¿no? De aquel trabajo metódico, ¿no? Poético, repetitivo, ¿no? Siempre vemos los artesanos con sus manos. Y yo creo que esta manera es una manera muy distinta de poder representar la artesanía, porque no se fija en la mano, sino que se fija en el rastro del gesto. Y es muy interesante verlo desde ahí, porque como código visual queda muy lejos, ¿no? Lo que es la presentación de la mano de alguien haciendo cosas, pero otra cosa es representar la secuencia del gesto, ¿no? Y por lo tanto es representar el rastro que construye materializa una obra, ¿no? De alguna manera. Por lo tanto, entiendo que es otro, ¿no? Que aquí se llegó a otra manera de explicar, muy original y muy distinta, de explicar ciertas actitudes de artesanía, ¿no? Y esto a mí me parece como muy interesante también de mirar.
So he says craftsmanship is often represented by hands doing something. The images that represent craftsman is often the hand. La Massana is a school of craftsmanship and arts. So it's very dedicated in the tradition and techniques. And Xavi was interested in Edouard's point of view because it's not focusing on the hand itself, but on the sequence of the movement. So it explains or shifts the point of view to different attitudes that are not the traditionally representation of the hand doing something, but the hand itself, not the object.
In a way, it's funny that you say that there are a few students from IAC, from the master, in which we're working a lot with robotic tools, and actually for us in this group, I think it's very common, this way of doing things, because actually we are working with an automated tool that very often we are always working with the language of abstraction, which is the language of movement, which is the language of the trajectory, and in which sometimes you represent the robot, but very often you don't. What's important is how the robot moves, because you need to understand if the robot is going to collide, if it's going to make collision with other things, with itself, with the infrastructure around, or more importantly with the material. How is it going to slow down when it touches the material? Is it going to change its way to move? So actually that was a little bit what I enjoy doing, is to be in the Massana where all the hand movements, we never understand them like that, but actually with this idea of working with robotics, there it's very necessary and very important to work like that. So it's kind of, and what is also interesting is when you work with this technology, very often you first look at how a hand craft is happening, and you learn from that. And this is something that we do a lot in the course, actually, which is to understand the movement of a hand and to see how we can bring it to make the trajectory. But so that project somehow happened the other way around. It's about bringing this language of this digital technology to a student that is moving a thread, that is moving a piece of earth in the way that we have been doing it for so long. And I think for me that was important to because really often we are tempted to put things in a box, As when we were students in architecture, Beatrice and me, we studied together many years ago. We were in a moment where some teachers were allowing their students, or even teaching their students, to draw with a computer. And there were others, and we were in a very progressive school, and there were others that wanted their students to draw by hand, because when you draw by hand, your thinking process is different, it has a different speed, the action is different. So there is, when you draw by hand, a lot that you gain in the design process, But then, of course, when you draw by computer, you gain very different things, And I think in our school, maybe because it was quite progressive, that debate was not a debate of big confrontation. But I know that in other schools, that situation, that time was very problematic, and there were big fights, of teachers that were saying, "No way, the computer is going to get us to miss." We're going to lose so much by using the computer. So that discussion was there, and really often we are tempted. So when we look at these drawings, sometimes like people really want to know, was this done by hand, or was this done by computer? And for me, a little bit this work was to try to mix everything together, and not to say there's the hand doing this and there's the computer doing that, but actually I think that the time in which we are now, the way that we work, the way that we live, the way that we communicate, I think everything is entangled, and I don't think that we are in a time where we can say, the hand is we need to do it either by hand, or the hand is better for this and that reason, computer is better for that and that reason. I think by now everything is really related, and I think that work really tries to break this break this idea, to separate, but to say let's I think to me what would be most sad is, of course, if people stop to do things by hand. Or if in a private school, in a school 20 years ago, if some teachers would say, "Don't work with a computer," simply because I think the more practices we have, the more tools or the more attitudes, as you said a moment ago, we have, makes us, I think, better thinker, and eventually in the discipline of drawing and the discipline of architecture, better designer. And for me, that was something very important: is to not do that, but but to look at the connections between these fields and not their differences.
Would you like to comment something, ask something, or there is a detail that I found very interesting. It's if you could explain these 3 drawings and the circles, maybe. Would you like to?
Yeah,
because
sure.
I found it very interesting.
I can do it. So
every drawing in the process has 3 drawings that come from 3 cameras. Is that right? Okay.
So the hand gesture that that the student or the craftsman does is, maybe.
Miedo de romperlo.
Gracias a Xavi.
Tengo miedo.
Xavi siempre nos ha puesto en esta situación de tener que hacer gestos raros. So
Es performativa.
So
Sí, sí.
actually, maybe we can.
every drawing comes from 3 recordings, and here we have a frame of each recording.
Hacemos así, mira.
From each recording,
Opa.
there are 3 drawings, and all the drawings have a mesh and these circles. So I'm asking Edouard to explain this.
So that's a study that I did, looking at this original path of this question of the precision of a movement and when you hit a nail, it's important that you hit the nail, but when you go back, it doesn't matter. It's important you don't go to the window, but there is much more freedom. So in all of these gestures along this curve, I realized that this curve along its way had different values of something very precise and values of more freedom. And so that's what I decided to represent with these circles. When the circle is small, the gesture is precise, and when the circle is big, and that was then a piece of information that I used in order to do the generation of these drawings, no? Basically. So here, for example, the circle is small, and here the circle is large. So then there is this translation of a large circle means that the page is going to be more white, and a small circle means that this 0.00005 line is going to have so many repetition on top of each other that is going to start to make an area that is completely black.
I find it very interesting because there is a gesture, but then you analyze it, and this analysis, from this analysis, you learn something that then becomes part of the work, that it becomes translated. It's not just the gesture. No, there is an analysis and a learning from it.
Yes, and then there is also a desire to compose, actually, because it's in that sense what you say. It's not a faithful drawing of that process. So, for example, that grid is something that I decided to introduce because it has an aesthetic value, because it's also the hand probably never goes there, right? But in this idea of this drawing being a map of the potential of that hand, I wanted to have some lines here. I wanted to say that this whole space is the space of the event, of the movement, of that tool touching that material. So that's where this drawing is also going its own way. No, it's not a scientific drawing. Definitely not. It's not this could not go into a scientific article to claim to describe precisely that movement. It's not about that. It's more about maybe finding potentials, but there is definitely also a certain desire to work with composition, to want the drawings. There were many actually attempts, of how to draw that one curve. Should it go here? Should it go there? Should it follow a small grid, a big grid? And yes, and I think for me it's important to say that because the whole process is very linear and is very accurate and is very precise, but actually not. There is also some strong desires that are expressed in the making of these drawings.
Which then is parallel when you say that the gesture is very precise and then aleatorio, random. So here there is precision, and I wouldn't say randomness, but subjectivity, maybe, no? From your part. to create what I think it's a work of art in itself, regardless the process.
Yeah.
So it's like your own vision, your own representation of the gesture. It's not just putting the gesture on a map.
There's a question, but I think before that I want to explain a small story. No, because some maybe we can fold it again because otherwise we get tired. So that piece eventually being an art piece in the sense that it's a drawing on the wall, and in the sense that it's not a scientific document, I think for me is something quite important. When I showed this book to a friend who is an anthropologist, and this is something we've talked a bit with the students from IAC, and she said, do you know Frank Gilbreth? And I didn't know Frank Gilbreth at that time, so I went to look. And then Frank Gilbreth is someone who, with his wife, also Lillian Gilbreth, did exactly this 100 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So he started before he met his wife. He started to work in a construction company, and he looked at how people were placing bricks. Bricklayering, and he tried to categorize or to understand the movement of laying bricks to make it more efficient, because he realized that everybody was putting bricks. He realized that there were he mapped 125 ways of the gestures of putting a brick, and so he wrote a manuscript, or he wrote a technique actually, or a protocol to say the most efficient way for the body to put a brick is to do it in 4 actions, right? So, and he's remembered as an efficiency engineer. So he did this with bricklaying, and then he did this with many crafts. In order, basically, he went to look at these movements with a desire to make them more intelligent, to make them more efficient, to gain time, to release effort on the body. And he went all the way also to create 3-dimensional. So they are not sculptures because they are scientific, but he went to create with wire very precise trajectories, exactly these and I swear I didn't know before, but on background that has a grid. A grid like this, a grid like that, a grid like that, and it's the trajectory. So very, very close to that. But what's interesting, and I think it's also polemic, this comparison, is that their work, the couple actually, their desire was to make work more efficient, and they did it so well that little by little they contributed very strongly in the Industrial Revolution to the replacement of workforce by machine. So all of the conclusions of their work to study the human body, it actually led to creating Fordian machines that are repeating constantly to basically be able to put the person to rest until the point where the person just somehow is kicked out of the process. And for me, it's very nice that story, and I think it's very polemic because there is, with the question of robotics, the question of this technology, this really big fear, that technology can definitely replace people, and I think this is a really big discussion in the school in IAC. We are sometimes looking at this question that is a very difficult one to do, because do you have the very romantic attitude of saying no, let's make sure that we just keep on working, but if you tell a bricklayer or someone who is mixing the cement to do it with a machine or to do it with a shovel, there is none of them that will want to do it with a shovel, So it would be also a very romantic position to say, no, we need to continue to work with our hands. It's very good in some cases and in others not. And for me, it was interesting to discover Gilbreth after having done this work, because when I look at the work, I said, wow, it's crazy, it's really the same. And you know what he did? They put a light bulb on the finger of workers, and then they did long exposure photograph, and the drawing they got is the same as this. So the technique we used, the all of that is so similar, but the intention somehow is completely reversed. Like them, it's to gain efficiency until little by little, clack, without wanting the human is out. And here it's to look without looking at efficiency back to the handover movement with digital means to try to document, to archive, to speculate, to basically to work with it, to value it, no? And to say, no, actually we need it. Let's make sure it doesn't disappear. So that's also why at the end they cannot be considered scientific document. And in a certain way, this is an art book. It's not a technical book, or it's not a process in which things are highly questionable in this book. These drawings are absolutely questionable. They are not the right solution. They are one solution amongst so many. No, so
there is just very quickly. I just thought about a photographer that also make works that are between art and technique, and he was starting to. He did them in order to analyze the movement first of horses. Muybridge. Have you seen these images of the horse, Muybridge? And he also has a grid at the back. And then the pictures, now we look at them as a work of art because they are beautiful. But he used photography as a way of analyzing the movement. Humans, horses, yes.
To measure, no? Photography to measure.
Yes, photography
so
to measure.
Completely scientific.
And completely scientific, and you have the sequence, birds.
Yeah.
They're very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, incredible. It's quite a useful reference, actually. Also, it has been in this work. Muybridge and also Marais. Yeah.
Llevamos una hora, pero ¿alguien quería hacer una pregunta?
Sí, había un par de preguntas. ¿Tenemos todavía un momentito? Genial.
Could you tell us briefly, like in form of steps, like to talk about more about the process? Like first you define the grid, and then how was it that you defined the repetitions, or where to go, or like very briefly? Because they were all different, right? So how do you define?
So what I did is I identified one movement, one curve, and along this curve I studied and I imposed the moments of high precision and the moment of low precision, and that was basically my input. Then afterwards I worked on actually a grasshopper definition that would basically reproduce this curve and have degree of these circles. Basically they are numerical values that say in this point you're going to need to go more likely to 90%, for example, in these points less. So that's a bit what this script would do. Just, yeah.
Però els alumnes van acabar amb els braços destrossats, no?
Com?
Els alumnes van acabar amb els braços destrossats.
Sí.
Ah, sí?
No, és broma.
It's true that I only took 20 movements from the students, but to get these 20 movements, they probably had to do 200 or 2,000. So like, stop! Again, stop!
So the videos were very short, or how long did it
The
take them?
videos were very short. Or I took very long videos, and then I said, let's look here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You identified a sequence of 20 movements, but a sequence, one sequence.
Exactly. Periods. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
You also had a last question?
Is there protocols for these projects?
A lot.
I mean, they're in the book. Did you put them, like under every drawing, or not?
No. That's somewhere in the computer. I know where, but there is a code which is not here. That's true. But in order to publish that code, that would require some creativity. For in a funny manner, the way that this kind of coding tool works is that it's also full of hair. So it looks a little bit like sometimes these drawings, especially if they are badly structured.
Ah, grasshopper. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. So yes, behind it there is definitely a lot of code which is not here in the book. Yeah.
The code, what is it? Is a text?
No, it's
Oh, it's the drawing with the loops and.
yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Ah, yeah, I have seen it. Yeah. Okay. You are all coders. You can all draw with grasshopper and sensors and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Some of them.
But you all know a little bit.
6 of them very high level.
I don't.
Yeah. 6 of them very high level.
Yeah. Okay.
And maybe now we can talk a little bit more informally when we. But a lot of students that are behind, we are doing a class in La Salle, which is about computation, but we do computation by hand. So we write instructions, and then we give the instruction, and then Xavi has to do the drawing following the instructions.
Seriously?
Yeah. So it's like
They give the instructions to you.
no to them,
another
to each
Xavi.
other. To each other.
And like
So
you tell me what to do, and then
if we
I
have
do
the
what
same
to do.
class,
Okay.
exactly. Tuck, 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 tuck,
And
tuck.
I don't make an opinion. I don't have any opinion. I just do it.
I'm a machine,
Like,
but I'm not completely a machine because I still have a brain and a sensibility, and I want to interpret in a certain way. So these drawings that come out are always surprising. And the reason also why I suggested these students to come is that we are doing this in a book. So in a sketchbook, but so these stories of where's the process, where is the content, this story of the A5, of the A4, that also touches a lot on the...
Very interesting, no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe now, when we finish, we can also look.
Ya.
¿Sí?
¿Sí?
1, 2, 1. Ok.
Muy bien,
Okay,
fantástico.
thank
Muchas gracias.
Sí.
Muy bien.